Hello and welcome to Business Today Television. We're talking about the fast approaching Diwali dhamaka. In fact, it is the India and the UK FTA that is going to be sealed as early as before Diwali that we are picking up. In fact, the negotiations have been on for quite some time, and both the countries are now looking at a bilateral trade of close to about $100 billion by 2030. A lot of key sectors, be it labor, trade, exchange, that is being considered. To talk more about this, we are joined by the Chair of UKIndia Business Council, Mr. Richard Heald. Thank you, Richard, for joining us in this conversation on Business Today, and welcome to India.
Thank you. Lovely to be here again.
So I think the first question that must go to you is, how's the weather?
I find it rather hot. We're getting a bit colder in the UK, so I had to pack carefully.
Okay, I'm going to try and take a transition towards the economical weather, and because we are talking about the free trade agreement, how do you see the timeline? Are you confident that it's going to pull off by next month? That is the agreement, and what is the current state of negotiations at?
Well, I think everything I'm hearing really does indicate that there is a seriousness to try and ink something at the end of October. We've had a new Prime Minister in the UK. I don't think that's going to change anything. In fact, in many ways, I think that Prime Minister Truss is actually really committed to make this happen. So I'm pretty confident.
Right. You did mention about the new Prime Minister, but also what's with the new developments is the global situation, a geopolitical situation like the inflation, recession that's quite ringing bell across the world. Is that going to be a concern, you see?
I don't think it's going to be a concern because, in fact, in many ways, the benefits that come out of a free trade agreement will spur and assist the development and tackling these problems that you indicate. Some of them are very specific. Some of them are very much driven by what is unfortunately happening in Eastern Europe. Some are more macro economic. But generally speaking, anything that facilitates trade, encourages economic dialogue between two nations which have a strong foundation already has to be good.
Right. Now, what are the key areas and sectors, that are going to be under focus on this economical partnership between India and the UK? We are talking about a lot of employment opportunities for many.
Well, I think there are three levels that I look at. And the first level is those sectors that Prime Minister Modi and Prime Minister Johnson highlighted in the strategic partnership announcement that they made in 2021 and the 2030 roadmap, which they outlined at the same time. So things like sustainability, sustainable energy, things like mobility, issues that really do impact on society and societal development. So education, technology, healthcare, as well as nuts and bolts things like aerospace and defense. These were key areas that the Prime Ministers focused on jointly, and those certainly are major themes. Below that, we have a whole raft of touch points between UK and India across different segments like financial services, professional services, etc. And then right at the bottom, if you like, but very, very important because it underscores everything, is ease of doing business. So tariff things, access and ease of doing business. Those are the three pillars in which the free trade agreement and the discussions are going to be built.
Yeah, key important points, of course, highlighted by you, but I'm going to pick up the first one, which is on the sustainable energy that you've spoken about. Now, of course, the world is transitioning towards clean and green energy. We are just, I think, months away from COP27 and key other international forums like that of G20 also coming up for Asia specifically. How do you see this collaboration of India and the UK important when it comes to sustainable investments, and where do you think the future lies?
Well, I think both our countries are really focused on two key aspects, amongst others. But two key aspects that I want to highlight is the movement towards reduction in hydrocarbons, particularly in the automotive sector. And so areas like development of electronic vehicle technology, particularly battery technology, is something that is fundamentally important. And we are already seeing steps being taken, substantial steps being taken between India and the UK. Just a month ago, I was invited to the opening of Mahindra's new design centre in Banbury in Oxfordshire. And that is one major automotive company, but there's also others. There's Ola that is involved in a design centre and a technology centre in Coventry that's just announced a £100 million investment. And there are others as well. You have brands such as Classic Legend, Royal Enfield, and now even Bajaj has bought Vincent Motorcycles. All are focusing on developing technology in in UK, which can be brought back into India in order to build a strong EV focus here. The other area that we talked about was sustainable energy element, was hydrogen fuel technology. And there is a huge amount of discussion and collaboration and development and exploration of the rollout of the supply chains. In the UK, we focus on blue. In India, we focus on green. All right? But essentially, how you transport it, the finished product, is the same. So a lot of collaboration and discussion and investment that is going on and go on between UK and India in those specific areas.
Good to know. That's an increased market access that we are talking about. Now, a key focus also is going to be, of course, on the imports and exports. That's going to quite be the pillar of this agreement. Are we going to see some kind of tariff reductions? If yes, what are the kind of key sectors we are looking at?
Well, I think food and beverage has always been something at the top of our list of asks and requirements. And I think that that's a fundamental point, but in both directions. Because obviously there are foodstuffs that are produced by India, which are consumed in the UK, and vice versa. And in fact, underpinning that is also in the food and beverage area is logistics. You've got to shift the goods in a way that actually preserves the quality, etc., between the two countries. The other area, of course, is around beverages. And there's been a lot of discussion, I know, around Scotch whisky. I find the topic of Scotch whisky interesting because, yes, tariffs are higher than they are in the rest of the world. But also what we're really trying to focus on is actually technology transfer in the area of production, bottled in India, taking bulk imports from the UK and used in the developed domestic industry, technology in terms of process, technology in terms of packaging. These are areas where the FT can enhance the trade between the two for the benefit of both our economies.
Great. One last question, and I must ask this to you. The death of Queen Elizabeth, in fact, has had a huge impact on the country, to probably an extent signaling some kind of economic slowdown. How's the sentiment holding in that regard?
I actually don't think it has had... It's too early to tell, all right? But I don't think that the impact, the emotional impact that one's seen on the TV screens in the past week has had a material, or will have a material, negative economic impact going forward. I think what it has done is that it has caused people to, if you like, look up temporarily from their immediate economic problems and in order to think about the wider perspective. And absolutely, she was an absolutely fundamental figure in the 20th century. I mean, I'm 66 years old. I have never known any other monarch other than the late Queen. The other thing that I point out is transition. You know, the transition that has occurred, the accession that has occurred, has been seamless. And it's been broadly and absolutely universally, actually, accepted within the UK. I think that bodes well for the psyche and people's philosophy going forward. So I'm confident that it's no negative impact that you're describing.
That's good to know. I think that's the emotion universally carried that you were sharing. Good to know. Thank you very much, Richard, for talking to us. And
my pleasure.
We look forward to this fruitful collaboration.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If you like the video, do like, comment, share and subscribe.